The mission statement for Tesla is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. There are a number of current products that we use for energy that are just not sustainable. They also contribute to air pollution, CO2 accumulation in the atmosphere, and are a constant source of economic war and actual war. So Elon's mission, his interest in moving away from coal, oil, and natural gas is an enviable and achievable mission. But there's so much more to this issue than meets the eye. Hi, this is Randy Kirk. If you like this kind of content, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit notify. Of course, you always want to be here early in the morning to hear the report just as the market's opening in the morning. And so that's why you want to absolutely hit notify. And then we'll talk in a few minutes. We want you to join Patreon, and whether you join Patreon or not, you know you want one of these. So listen, I started in the bicycle business in 1971. Okay, go ahead and do the math. With a retail location that grew from my buying and selling used bicycles out of my garage during the massive bicycle boom of that late 60s and early 70s. During the next 52 years, there is one thing that could be counted on to create a boom in the bicycle business, and that was high gasoline prices. If the price of gasoline was high enough, it meant people thought they would commute to work, or they would have their kids ride their bikes instead of driving them to this and that. So all the time, anytime that price of gasoline went up, people rushed to the retail stores and bought more bicycles. My entire professional life has been one where my future was tied closely to the price of oil and gas. To make matters more interesting, starting in 1981, I was a plastics manufacturer. The base of all plastics is either oil or natural gas, and they can be changed out. So polyurethane, which is one of the main things we bought, you could buy a polyurethane that was almost identical, that was either oil-based or gas-based, and depending on the price of oil or gas, we would switch back and forth. So the price of my feedstock was also going to go up or down based on things like OPEC or hurricanes in the Gulf. Well, I only gave you that history to give you some idea of the depth of my experience in this subject matter. It's also true, of course, that electric cars will sell better when gasoline prices go up, at least historically. Could be changing, but we'll see. I'm absolutely convinced, think about this for a minute, that the US Midwest has not adopted EVs at the same pace as the coasts or as Europe, because the Midwest pays far, far less for a gallon of gas than anywhere else on Earth, with the possible exceptions of countries where they subsidize gasoline, or maybe some of the Gulf oil states that might not have any tax and try to give it as cheap as they can to their citizenry. But for a great extent, you might be paying $2.25 in Missouri, let's say, for a gallon of gas, when it's $4.50 on the coast and it's $7.50 in Europe. So that's the kind of difference we're talking about. So that why would the Midwesterners have not? They're like, I don't have as great a need to buy an electric car because it's not going to save me as much money per month as folks on the coast or in Europe. All right, there have been many in the climate change movement who have suggested high taxes on gasoline, like Europe has, to encourage the adoption of EVs. And this would undoubtedly work if the country would stand for it. That's pretty unlikely, in my opinion. The price, this is important, listen carefully, the price of energy in any country is going to dramatically affect its wealth, all things being equal. Energy is necessary, but because it's so ubiquitous through every aspect of the economy due to transportation costs on top of the cost of feedstocks, not to mention fertilizer and equipment used to farm or to manufacture, all of these things are contributing to the cost of every single thing you buy, and even to services that you acquire, that you get. So of course, if you add light and heat and air conditioning and other necessities like heating water and cooking food, now you can see there's a huge amount of energy being used and not to mention data centers and Bitcoin mining. So if one country has an advantage in terms of their cost of energy compared to another country, if everything is equal, the people in that country are going to pay less for all of those things, which gives them more additional income that they can use for whatever they want to use it for. They can buy more of the same things, or they can buy things that are not on that list of oil-related products, which is almost nothing. So we can't get away from oil immediately. We will need to increase production for the next few years, and then it will go away for energy production over the next 10 to 20 years. It'll still be needed for fertilizer, probably. It'll still be needed for, for plastics. It'll be used for a lot of things. And you'll also see that it takes a long time to transition, even when all of the new products are only using renewable energy, because there will still be lots of cars on the road. There will still be lots of gas stoves, gas-based air conditioning systems, etc., that will still need to use the petroleum-based products for years into the future. So I'm saying 10 to 20 years is about how long it'll take before we'll be completely done with these oil and gas-based and coal-based products. All right. Now, if oil goes up, everything goes up. We just talked about that. I think I've already said everything there. So you also have to take into consideration that when you tax oil, or you raise the price of oil at the pump, or even if you, at the ground, or you raise the price of natural gas by taxing it at the ground, you do all these things. This is a tax that all humans pay that are in that country or that state. Everybody pays that tax, and great, okay, then the government has more taxes to spend on us, I guess, but it takes away from your individual wealth. And this is a very regressive tax. It hurts the poor and the middle class far more than it does the upper middle class and the wealthy. Now, we're just barely skirting a recession, right? Everybody's been talking about the recession will come next month, next quarter. Everybody's still talking that it might still come next year. And we're just getting inflation under some kind of control. And what happens? One government, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, has chosen to, this is not a conspiracy theory. Pick up anything, go Google it, and find out what's happening to the price of oil right now. Saudi Arabia, and they've been talked to Russia. They went over to Russia, and the two of them, outside of OPEC, this is in addition to what OPEC is doing, they've decided to screw things up royally. All the hard work that we've done with raising interest rates in order to get our inflation down can be all undone by these royal princes in Saudi Arabia, combined with Putin. Just weeks ago, I mean, literally weeks ago, go back and look. If you watch this channel, you know that I report this every day. The price of oil was sitting at $67 for West Texas Intermediate. That would have made about $70 for the, I'm forgetting the name of the other one all of a sudden, just went out of my mind. Now we're at $87 for that same West Texas Intermediate. That is a 30% jump in just a few weeks that will now work its way through to gasoline, heating oil, plastics, and apples, okay? It will be an absolute 30% for gasoline, and it'll happen quickly. So you will be back to having folks paying $1 more per gallon than they were just a few weeks ago, and that's just going to be in a few weeks. Every chart, you can go ahead and look this up too. I didn't bother to show it to you, but every chart shows that gasoline follows oil. It's just like clockwork. And people think, well, when oil goes up, gasoline goes up more. And when oil comes back down, gasoline doesn't come down as much. No, look at the charts. It comes down. You can watch the chart over years and years and years. It always works that way. So you've got the oil situation that's going to cause the gas, but we're not done. The Saudi Arabians have just, and the Russians have just said, they're going to continue to keep this 1 million barrels a day off the market. That's just the Saudis. And then the Russians, I'm not sure how much. They're going to continue to keep this amount of production off the market all the way to the end of the year. There's already shortages. There's already this 30% increase in the price of oil, and they're going to continue this through the end of the year. So that'll help Tesla, right? The stock should go up, right? Well, it might help sales for a while, but guess what? Tesla also buys all kinds of things that require oil. So costs will go up. As inflation ticks up, the Fed will feel the need to increase interest rates. That'll hurt Tesla's sales. Moreover, the rest of the world is far less resilient than the United States is to these oil price issues. So Europe and China, both right on the edge of recession and dependent on imported oil, are very likely to drop into recession, and that hurts our economy too. What is the answer? I remember vividly when two previous presidents were asked by the press corps what they intended to do about the high price of oil. In both cases, Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump said, "What can we do?" But in both cases, they were wrong in that assertion. They were wrong to question what they could possibly do in that situation. And in both cases, they figured it out within days, and all of a sudden they figured out there was plenty they could do. They went to work, and they went to the oil industry in the United States, and they said, "Look, we're going to do whatever we can to help you increase production. What do you need? What can we do to help you increase production?" They went to the oil reserves. Well, actually, I think Reagan didn't have oil reserves. I think he created the oil reserves. But Trump, he went to the oil reserves, and he said, "Look, I'm going to let go millions and millions of barrels if necessary out of the reserve." And then they also, both of them went and started jawboning the OPEC nations at the time, or whoever it was that was the problem. They went jawboning to try to get the price of oil down by threats and intimidation and whatever else was necessary to get the oil prices to go down. So whether or not I like Joe Biden is irrelevant. When those two presidents said, "What can we do?" I jumped out of my chair and went, "Of course, you have plenty that you can do." I was in shock. Now we have another time in history where leadership is required. Biden will be hated by some in his party if he encourages U.S. production. Obviously, that's not what most of the folks in the Democrat Party want. He has no relationship with the Saudis. In fact, he has a negative relationship with the Saudis. So how's he going to jawbone those guys down? And he's already tapped the reserve. Well, guess what? He still needs to do all three things immediately, or we will be headed back to inflation, higher interest rates, and a difficult economy. He needs to go to the Saudis no matter what. He needs to figure out a way to get the Saudis on board on this. He's not going to get Russia on board. Are you kidding me? But he can get the Saudis on board. He can also go to the U.S. industry. He needs to go to the U.S. industry and say, "What can I do? I know I've been fighting you all the way, but right now we need the oil production." And they may not believe him, but maybe they will. And just by saying it, just by stating it, a lot of this is perception. If he goes out and says, "Look, I'm going to find a way to replace this Saudi oil," that's how I would say it. "I'm going to find a way to replace this 1 million barrels a day. Or if the Russia is cut by another 500,000, I'm going to find a way to replace this 1.5 million. We're not going to have oil shortages. We're not going to have gasoline shortages. And we're going to make sure that the price of oil doesn't go over, $100 a barrel. And we're going to get it back down." You can go to strategic reserve. Sure, he's already depleted it a ton. Okay, too bad. Go back and say, if we need to, that's what we'll do too. Whatever it takes, that's what we're going to do. That's called jawboning. That's called leadership. That's what I'm calling on the president to do. I'd love to know what you think about all of this in the comments below, and I'll respond. So please let me know. I'd love to hear what got on your mind. All right. Well, you know what? You know what to do. You need to like if you thought that was useful at all. If it's helpful, it's not going to help Tesla stock. We need to get this oil thing under control, and it is completely out of control, 30% in just a few weeks. So hit like and subscribe, hit notify if you want to make sure you're always notified. Remember, these are $25, information down below. Just send it to my PayPal account, $25. It also comes in the camo version, beautiful gift box. And they're $45 if you're not in the USA in terms of a postal code. And you can also get one for free. All you got to do is join my Patreon at the $10 level. All right, that's all I've got for now. And as always, it has been great talking to you.